Drew joined Lumion as the head of marketing just 2 months ago, and prior to that, they had no predictable way of generating leads for their business.
Had zero marketing before I joined. And the very first priority I had was building a predictable demand channel.
So he decided to work with BuzzLead, and just 31 days later, their entire business looked completely different.
In the span of a month, we've had well over 100 positive responses from the BuzzLead campaigns. We've scheduled, I believe, over 50, if not 45 to 55 plus meetings with an 80% hold rate.
Now, Drew never really liked working with agencies because he's had a bunch of really bad experiences in the past. So in this video, we sit down directly with Drew, we break down his experience working with BuzzLead, the exact results that Lumion got in that first month, as well as what was unique and different about BuzzLead compared to some of the other agencies that he worked with in the past. Drew, thank you for joining us here today. Just want to take a second to have you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got involved with Lumion, and then we'll kind of jump right into it.
Yeah, sounds great. Happy to be here. So obviously I'm Drew. I've been with Lumion for 2 months now. So our partnership kicked off right when I joined, and it's been amazing. So historically, or kind of previously, I've been in high growth tech marketing for the last 10, 12 years, building and scaling marketing strategies and go-to-market strategies and teams for tech companies spanning a lot of different industries, including e-commerce, project management, tax and accounting, even nanotechnology. And, recently I've been trying to, as everything started to evolve, especially with AI and our entire kind of work landscape, I've been really thinking a lot about where I want to be, what I want to do, how I can blend kind of this evolution that is happening in marketing with a product and an industry that provides real end user value. And when I was introduced to Lumion and I started to dig into the trade and tech space, it just immediately clicked for me. Joined the business, and it's been a really exciting ride over the last 2 months, and really we're just getting started. So it's exciting times over here.
Yeah, definitely exciting times. And I think you joined a really great company that's got a bold vision in a really budding marketplace. I guess for everyone that's not familiar, would you mind just sharing what Lumion actually does?
Yeah, so Lumion, kind of the headline pitch on it, it's the operating system for trade and technical schools, right? So across the country, there are, between 10 and 30,000 trade and technical schools that service students, and help them become, the electrician, the cosmetologist, the dental assistant. It's a massive industry with a lot of, pretty insane amount of interest from students. It's grown aggressively, and one fact that I like to just throw out there is 60% of Gen Z right now is actively looking into trades,
Hmm.
right? It is a very acute problem and a high interest, industry right now. But one of the key issues is that trade and technical schools, like, they're outdated. They are not your classic higher education schools or tech businesses that are, quote unquote, with the times. They don't um, have, really great dedicated software. Um, and our mission is basically to help these trade and tech schools modernize their business so that they can support more students coming in. So just a snapshot of what we do. So Lumion, we offer kind of a four product structure. First is the engagement aspect. Basically, how do we help these schools attract and capture more of the interest that's coming in?
Mhm.
Our next is enrollment. How do we streamline the enrollment process so it's not a lot of the manual back and forth and uh, you know some of those legacy experiences that a lot of people are used to that really just kills interest. So how do we streamline enrollment? The next is payments. We're the only NMLS certified payment plan provider for this industry. So we schools that use our payments product. They can help students who might not be able to pay everything up front, or they have limitations and don't qualify for scholarships. Allow them to create custom payment plans that allow students to get in, get learning, and pay, their tuition over time without, all the headaches there. And that's been a kind of key product for
Huge,
us and something that we're really
huge,
helping people with. And the final is what we call our success product, which is attendance, grades, scheduling, reputation management, student reviews, and connecting students with career opportunities after the fact. And the last thing I'll say about Lumion that I'm really excited about is our intense focus on AI. And we have
me too.
we have built products that allow schools to implement AI journeys into their flows that is completely and 100% dedicated to trade and tech, that is allowing these schools and these owners and operates to scale their business, scale their school and their business without, huge headcount costs or overhead. And, that all kind of wraps up in our mission of empowering schools to serve more students and really fuel the American economy.
Heck yeah. And we know that you got yourself into a real good opportunity, unique situation in a niche market as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, just an exciting opportunity to be a part of. And I'm curious, what did the whole sales and marketing team dynamic look like prior to you coming in? Like, really cool product. Did you guys have a big team, small sales team when you had first joined, and how'd that all look?
Yeah, when I joined, the business was kind of on the tail end of I guess I'll call it kind of an evolution, going from simply the payments product into
Mhm.
a full suite of, high value software. And with that evolution, there was an evolution in, the go-to-market organization and the team. So when I joined, there were a lot of changes in effect. And just to be kind of simple, basically, we've rebuilt the sales, marketing, customer success, and support teams from the ground up.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
we didn't have a big sales team. We had zero marketing before I joined. And so my immediate focus was how do we how do we start building this up to match the maturity and evolution of our product?
Hmm.
How do we make people aware?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because you guys have a really great solution. I mean, and we always talk around like how do we position your guys' solution to help clients make more money, and that's like one of the easiest ways to do it. And so like we talked around payment processing, that's like one of the easiest ways to get people in the door. But even in our conversations and what I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later on is like just by our approach of being really specific and like dialing in on like what are the unique challenges that each individual business is facing is like we're able to extrapolate and correctly position the value add that Lumion has into like where that client is at like right
Mhm.
now on their journey as well. I guess like what would you say were some of like the main challenges that you thought the team was like faced with or the team was faced with in regards to like sales and marketing that kept them from growing, and then like how do you think BuzzLead help you tackle any of those?
Yeah, there's a lot that I can get into here, but just to keep it concise, basically the big problem that I saw on the sales side was lead quality, lead velocity, consistent conversion, and a dedicated, intentional strategy throughout. So
Mm,
who are we going after? What are we saying? How do we move them through our funnel? And how do we get them up to speed as quickly as possible? And how I kind of like to wrap that up is how do we decrease the time to value,
right.
right? In this type of experience in sales, at the time, it was viewing trade and tech as a kind of monolith, as a consolidated, everybody is the same kind of bucket of an industry.
Hmm.
And so there's not a lot of strategy there. And, as you know, that trickles down throughout everything else. So problem one was figuring out, okay, who are we going after? Why are we going after them? What are we saying? How do we deliver on those promises and structure our selling motion around it? And as I mentioned earlier, we had zero marketing at all before I joined. So figuring out that process was kind of the baseline for me building our marketing strategy.
I'm sure.
And the very first priority I had was building a predictable demand channel so that I could create enough space to work on everything else. So obviously, it kind of articulated a pretty heavy problem, a lot of work that goes into figuring these things out.
Right.
So the value of building a predictable channel right from the beginning to create enough space for me to do everything else that I needed to do, I knew it was going to be kind of the make or break in terms of how this was going to go and how quickly we could get it where I believed we could get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think you really hit the nail on the head with just like everything that you just explained, with just kind of like defining like who those different ideal customer profile segments are. Like I remember when we first got started, it was almost like somebody had really completely mapped this out, figured out how we could position the product and the different personas and the different pain points and solutions that would be appealing to each of those. And it was just very clearly defined from the beginning. So from an outbound perspective, it made it easy for us to just split test messaging and figure out which parts of our product are, really in demand, which pain points are people resonating with in our scripts. And it clearly led to some really good results here. And so looking at things from a quantitative perspective, how did some of the results look like? We started campaigns on March 24th was when we went live. So 31 business days since we've been live. And have your sales reps been busy? What are some of those numbers look like?
Yeah, yeah, and um, I think it's worth mentioning, right? When I say my first priority was to build this predictable channel. When I was introduced to you guys and I had that first call with Troy, I knew I felt kind of immediately like, all right, this can be a partner I can work with, solve this problem, right? And
Thank you.
when we started the engagement, one of the things that I was most impressed with and also excited about was the kind of intense focus on who are we going after, why are we going after them, what do they care about, and that provided immediately a lot of collaboration between BuzzLead and Lumion to build a intentional, thoughtful, verticalized strategy where we could actually go at things with a deliberate perspective and we can learn from it because it's defined, right? So that investment up front, I think, has made all the difference. So when we're getting into,
100%.
results at this point, we're only a month in, and I think the initial, um, expectations were set around 10 meetings a month. And where we were at before that, that would be fantastic. I was very happy with that. If we could do that, that would be great. I had a, feeling we would do better than that, but in the span of a month, we've had well over 100 positive responses from the BuzzLead campaigns. We've scheduled, I believe, over 50, if not 45 to 55 plus meetings with an 80% hold rate. And so to simplify the answer to your question, is the sales team's busy? Yeah, absolutely. And that has now become one of the channels that they, prioritize the most and has allowed them to, accelerate what they're doing while also expanding, their individual outbound and sales motion because they don't have to worry as much about cold outreach. So yeah, sales is busy and things are going kind of infinitely better than I thought they would, even though I knew they'd go well.
Yeah. And I'd say one of the biggest, like, it seems like applications coming out of this conversation here today is that we both had the structural vision of like, I feel like you guys, I don't want to, it's not luck, but like you found
Mhm.
some resonance in the marketplace with this monolith and like trying to position you guys as like one solution here. But the way that you came on board and in our conversation, like as I say to our very best customers, like please spend as much time as you can on that onboarding form because like the results you put in there will have a direct impact. And like
Yeah.
this is just like proof of that right now of like Drew
Mhm.
taking the time to be like, hey, we're looking at like these avatars, these are the pain points, these are the dreams, these are like how we're gonna exactly help. And that just allows us like tell that story. It just like works so much easier on the back end there. And then I
I
like that
totally agree.
bi-directional that you and I have too, where like, what if we kind of went into this place and like,
Mhm.
tested this water and like see what else is out here as well. And so, got to give a lot of credit to our data team as well because they're just like Drew and Troy go on this like wild goose chase, and we're like, we drag them along with us, be like, hey, see what you guys can find. This is what Claude says. I don't know if this is actually true.
Right. Right. No, I totally agree. I think, when you guys sent over that onboarding form, you know, the first thing I noticed was like, okay, this is quite a bit, but I love it. And then I ended up spending like 3 or 4 days longer on it because I could see the value there and kind of anticipate what that would do when we were getting into, kind of campaign strategy and building. And it immediately proved true, right? Working with the rest of the team, seeing the emails and the quality of the outreach and the thought in the outreach strategy, like it immediately kind of tied in and made that initial pass so much better. Where, usually I feel like these things go where you kick off that first, and then that second iteration is where you try to, make it something that actually works and is good.
Right.
This process allowed, you know, us to get up and going and moving with that first iteration, where now as we're getting into optimization, we are looking into so many different areas because that first one worked so well. So
Yeah.
that was something that I was really impressed with and obviously, very happy about.
Yeah. It's easier to compound the winners a lot that way.
Yeah.
We can just
Yeah.
stack really quickly. Would you say that's probably the thing that surprised you most in working with BuzzLead? Because I know you've had some previous experiences working with other lead generation partners. Was it something else?
Yeah. No, there are a lot of things that surprised me, right? And surprised me in a good way on all of them. I've worked with quite a few kind of cold outreach, marketing agencies, claiming to do similar things. And I've never really enjoyed it. It's always been very generic. Maybe the intentions were good, but it was never something that I felt like I could really implement into a thoughtful go-to-market strategy. And the biggest surprise was that, BuzzLead became a partner in the go-to-market strategy, right? And that has allowed us to, get buy-in across the go-to-market team on this approach. It's providing value in other areas, even influencing product decisions, right? So that integration and having BuzzLead now be a partner in, what we're building on the go-to-market side, not just a, extra channel that we're using.
Mhm.
That's been the biggest surprise to me, and you know, yeah, something I didn't expect.
Nice. That's always a pleasant surprise. That's what it
Yeah,
sounds like.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, and this has all been incredibly we've enjoyed hearing all this. It's been a fun first month, and I'm excited to just see where things take us moving forward. And one thing that kind of stuck out to me is like you had mentioned earlier in our conversation that like Lumion itself is a very mature product, and it just didn't really have any marketing behind it to really get the market aware and bring people up to speed. And one thing that I think people might pick up out of the conversation is that cold email is a great mechanism where if you know you've got a good product and you know that the product is going to continue innovating, like it's all just a matter of figuring out who that ICP is, and you could position it very well and get instant market feedback from your prospects. If you're thinking about launching a new product or starting a new subscription model, enterprise package, cold email will give you that instant
Feedback.
feedback from the market when you go out and test out messaging. Uh,
That's
I'm
a great point.
yeah. And last thing here to just wrap things up, would you recommend BuzzLead to anybody else that's looking for more appointments and building out their sales and marketing team?
Absolutely, I would. It kind of goes without saying at this point, right? But the I've actually talked to a couple, peers in who are also, running marketing teams and whatnot. The whole conversation about it is email dead or not. No, we all know it is, and you articulated it well. It's like the fastest path to get the feedback that we need to influence the other areas of, our go-to-market strategy, and seeing it work in real time just kind of re-emphasize that for me. But when I've been talking to, a few peers about what I'm doing, right, to build a modern marketing and go-to-market organization, you guys have come up every time because there's so much changing in the lead gen, digital marketing. Everything is changing, and anybody who says they know for sure what is the right path is just lying. So being able to work with a partner like you on something that has such direct and impactful kind of feedback loops makes all the difference. That buys the time to figure out everything else that we may or may not have answers to. So yeah, it goes without saying, I would recommend it every day of the week.
Awesome.
I
Thank you very
appreciate
much, Drew. Yeah, we
Yeah.
appreciate the time and appreciate the partnership and looking to continue success ahead.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys.
Let's keep rocking and rolling. Thanks, Drew.